This is Lansing Project 2026 podcast. For the people, by the people, Lansing Project 2026 is a framework for building collective, local resilience that starts by meeting everyone's basic needs. Our vision counters the division and destruction of Project 2025 by bringing neighbors together to strengthen connections and structure that serve communities. Lansing Project 2026 is based on the shared belief that we can build the world we want to live in and thrive together. It starts here. It starts now. Join the movement.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jerry Norris. I'm with the Fledge here in Lansing, Michigan, and I am hosting our show by myself today. Our good friend Tanya is out of the country, um, learning some new things to help bring to us about the Nordic culture, I guess I would say. So, I'm spending a lot of time on this data center, the Deep Green project, that isn't really a data center, in my opinion. It's not in my opinion. Most of the money and most of the infrastructure is going to be a solid oxide fuel cell that uses natural gas as its fuel and is going to pollute our downtown more than it's being. And we're doing it only because of the data center, supposedly. I think we're doing it to try to get solid oxide fuel cells designated as clean energy and up our percentage and all of that. But I don't want to spend a ton of time on that. But I think that Project 2026 is, it's exactly why I've created this platform, and we've been working on it so hard over the past decade. And I don't know how we put money ahead of our people and the health of our people. Economic development is important, but it is a subset of community development. And I think it's really important that we put people over profit and we put people over property tax. And, the data center just isn't the project that we need right now. And, it's going to be a different story when we start talking about the battery plant that's going to have true community benefit. And we'll see how that one plays out too. But anyways, I want to spend today. If you want to know more about the data center, you can find us on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram, and there's a lot of videos out there with us showing the counterpoints to the people that are in support of the project, which is mostly institutional people that are set to gain from the project in a financial way, where we're really defending it from a health of our community perspective. So go check it out. But I want to spend some time today going over what Project 2026 really means to us and why we're doing this. Tanya usually fills in my gap for me here and talks about it's really a way to counter Project 2025, which was implemented in full force as soon as Trump became our president again. And it has wiped out a lot of the bureaucracy of our government as far as who leads it. It didn't take care of get rid of the bureaucracy like Doge promised, but it did replace people that were sympathetic to the Heritage Foundation and billionaires and all the things that I think are wrong with our democracy right now. So Project 2026, just is really an extension of a lot of the work that we've been doing at the Fledge, but also a lot of work that all types of communities around this country, around the world are doing. So I'm not trying to center the Fledge on this because I think we are very much not in the center. We learn from Detroit all the time. We've got people in Arizona teaching us stuff. And there's so many great things around the world happening that if we could start to put together a platform that allows us all to start to really have, wealth. And wealth to us isn't the billionaire model that a lot of people point to when they hear that word. It is having a community that is prosperous, having a community that is has well-being. So we're healthy, we're having fun, we're free, we have unobligated time that we can do whatever we want. So I'm going to dig into what that means to me today. I will try to comment back if you have any questions, or at least I'll be able to read your comments, I guess I should say. And I'm going to go through a quick slideshow that I hope explains it all to us. So, Project 2026, I like this kind of our tagline here. It's community self governance, it's basic needs as basic human rights, and it's cooperative economics. It's not, the wealth hoarding and all of that we see everywhere. So, I think last week in the episode last week about food, we showed this diagram, and I'm gonna dig into it a little bit more. But what I want to say about this diagram is that number one, when we look at the Alice threshold, so many people in our community cannot afford all of the basic needs that they have to get to survive and to make sure their families survive and all of that. And I see very little being done about it. I mean, we can put free stands all over the place and feed people all day, but that's not fundamentally changing the structure and the system that allows people to, go to work, do their thing, come home, have all their basic needs met, and can, play with their kids, or, do some art or educate themselves. So, I think that number one, no matter what we do or what we accomplish, if we could meet a vision where everybody in our community, in our country, has their basic needs met, then I think we are way ahead of where we are now. And we start to build capacity for more education, more uh, art, more culture, more family time, get back to, relationships and connection that seems to be being diluted by social media and just, I got to work. I can't come hang out with you. I've got to work. I can't study this, what a solid oxide fuel cell is. I've got to work. So I can't, take a nature walk or whatever. So I'm going to skip over this slide fairly quickly and just, you know, whether you think, well, whether you are a Democrat, a Republican, you're right or you're left or whatever it is, I think you feel fundamentally that there is something wrong. And part of that I just mentioned is that 44% of America lives below the Alice threshold, so they cannot afford their basic needs. While that's happening, we're seeing private equity buying up all of the basic needs. So, we see food owned by really five different companies. Technology is a bunch of tech bro billionaires. You've got transportation has always kind of been centralized with power, or at least since the automotive industry. Housing, more and more private equity firms are buying up housing and more people are renting, and the list just keeps going on. So we see this power that keeps concentrating upwards, demonstrated through our governments or through wealth in general. And communities are losing control of their basic needs. We are depending on other people, usually outsiders, who are willing to extract our resources and then socialize the cost by having more people who are hungry, or more people that are unhoused, or more people that are um, suffering from, let's say, asthma and the pollution that might be around. And the real input on housing, food, healthcare, safety, and energy decisions is almost zero. I mean, we've got a ton of people speaking out against this data center, yet our city council is very prepared to vote yes on this on Monday, or at least the sale of the property. And what's going on here? Why is our city council, why is our federal government, local government, state governments, why did they quit listening to us? And why are they just shoving things down our throats, basically? And I imagine a city council and a mayor that is here to help the people, defend the people, listen to the people. We're not idiots, and collectively we're super geniuses. I mean, there's always somebody in the crowd that knows how to do something. And the more that we get together and discuss things and come to better solutions, the better off we're going to be. But we're being cut off with like taglines and mottos and marketing material and all of that. So, I don't feel like we have input in our future at all. And we definitely need to take that back. So let's go into what Project 2026 is and what it is not. And I'm going to start with, we are not a protest, we are not a petition. I think that, you look at what happened with No Kings last weekend, and a lot of people, there's no kings and all the little crap that they do to de emphasize that. Or you have people, on the left that are trying to get things done say, oh, it's just a protest, nobody does anything in between. But I think it's important to get out there and socialize and to connect. And as one of my friends said the other day to me, that we've got to know that there's people out there who are thinking the same thing, and that we're not alone in this, because the loss of connection, creates a lot of lonely people. And it's a time to, get a petition signed here and there. And petitions, they can work. We're going to need about 5,000 signatures on petitions when we start trying to recall people in Lansing, especially if they vote yes on these projects. I think there's a lot of people out there talking about the recall, and a lot of people starting to get it organized. So we'll see how that goes. We're also not opposition politics. And what I mean by that is, I don't see this as a Democrat or a Republican or a Libertarian or a Green Party, or I don't see it as that at all. What I see is that no matter what color your hat is, you probably love your kids, you probably love your family, you probably, if you're under the Alice threshold, you're probably suffering like the rest of us. And we probably see different paths on how to solve this. But, I have a sense of love for a lot of people, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or whatever. And I think that we get tricked, we believe propaganda, we trust the wrong people. And I want us all in this together. I can't imagine leaving somebody hungry, or leaving somebody unhoused, or leaving somebody in poor health. I see us as a tribe, and we need to take care of each other. And we got to get these politics out of the way. And then it's also not the fight against a failing system. I think you've heard me say before, if you've ever seen me or whatever, or just to say it if you're new to us, um, we can't just burn down systems. Burning down a system means grandma doesn't get her medicine. It means people might die of diabetic or allergic reactions or high blood pressure or bad immune systems or whatever it might be. So we can't just, fight the failing system all of the time and act like we're going to burn it all down. We've got to do something else. So what Project 2026 is to me, is to us, is a community blueprint. And we try to keep it loose enough so that, it works in the Lansing community, but it can work in the Los Angeles community. It can work in the Detroit community. It can work in the Fulton, Mississippi community, wherever we are. So, we have similar problems. We don't always have the same causes, and we don't always have a solutions that work everywhere. But within your community, we basically have the same basic needs, and we have similar causes, and we have similar things that are systemic against us. So, it's a blueprint for any community to use and make their own and do what they will with it. It's also a parallel system strategy. We can't, go burn down all the banks and then nobody can pay any of their bills or get any of their food or whatever. We have to create parallel systems and hope that we can create a better one for people to migrate to. And that's how you kind of keep from burning down the failing system. You starve it and you feed a new and a better system. And I also think we need more cooperative and self governance. And I know when we hear the word democracy and governance and all of that, we start to think about city council and Congress and mayors and governors and presidents. But we're also talking about, who makes the decisions in rooms? Is it always a leader that's some patriarchal, um, you know, dictator that's saying, here's how we're going to do everything? Or are we used to voting on things? Are we used to being civil and, practicing civic kind of habits when we make decisions? Because democracy is all day long, every day. It's not every 4 years. It's not every August or November. It's all the time. And we need to make sure that we're bringing everybody along with us. And it's redirecting our energy into things that work, not things that are a constant failure, and beating ourselves up and beating our heads against the wall and trying to, fight a system that's not going to listen to us. They have way more resource than us. It's going to be very hard to beat them, but let's redirect that energy into building something that is ours, that we can use for ourselves and our basic needs. And we can project our values into, our future. And I want to take care of my kids and my grandkids and their kids and their grandkids. And I want to be able to look seven generations out and know that we built the best community that we could for their future. So that's what it is, and that's what it isn't. Um, you know, it's called Project 2026. We did start the podcast in January. We've been again working on the model for decades, really. And I think that, as we look at what's happening around the world, and the power just keeps consolidating to the top, communities have to start building sovereignty from the bottom. Everything's going to be taken away from us. And, if they come at us with guns and tanks and all of that, that's, it's going to be a problem. They're going to take things from us. The only rights we really have are ones that, we're willing and able to protect, and that the people around us let us have. I think I heard a metaphor or analogy a few weeks ago that if you're sitting in a room you think you have the right to leave that room, but if there's 100 people in that room and they tell you you're not leaving, then do you really have the right to leave? I mean, rights are what you can really do. It's not what is always on paper. And, the urgency is that, we can't wait 4 more years for a different president to come along. And that president probably is not going to do anything better than the current president or the last president or whatever. It's still the same machine cranking out the same problems and the same unhealthy habits, taking away our prosperity, taking away our freedom, taking away our health. And Alice households, they can't wait for a policy fix. There is food that needs to be put on the table today. There are bills that need to get paid. There is transportation that needs to be provided to get to work or to hospitals or whatever it is. So there's an urgency right now. And, it's not, this isn't something where we're trying to fight against everybody. It's a redirection of energy. You know, we can go to a protest, yeah, but on Monday, let's go to the community garden and help out. On Tuesday, let's do some mentoring somewhere. On Thursday, let's look into, how we create a worker-owned co-op or whatever. So, this is something that we can do, and little bites that we can do. Rivers are made by drops of water, and if we can continue to just create little drops of water and build more and more people, then the solutions will come to us, the power will come to us, the sovereignty will come to us. And I think the proof is that somehow, some way, the Fledge has been able to survive for 11 years by doing these types of things and trying to help the community, trying to share it with the community, trying to get other people to step up in the community, and learning from the people that have taught us when to step up and taught us what we need to do. So, we're up against a lot here. We're not wealthy. We don't have a lot of revenue streams. We don't like to get grants. We try not to ask the community for too much. We have high, utility bills and taxes and all of that. And we try to get this done by ourselves because we don't see a future where there's going to be a lot of people that can either afford to help us or that will want to give us grants and things like that. So that's kind of where we're at with the why now. Basic needs, we use the ALICE threshold, asset limited, income constrained, and employed. I think there's a slide coming up on that. But we use the United Way's categories to define the 6 basic needs, which are housing, healthcare, childcare, food, transportation, and technology. But we also think that, if we bring the Maslow hierarchy into this a little bit, and we look in between the lines, we think that energy, education, the environment, and justice and safety need to be put in there as basic needs as well, because a house without electricity or whatever energy supply it is can be not as valuable as a house with electricity. Your food gets spoiled when you don't have refrigeration. When the in energy is bad for the environment, you don't have justice and safety. So these systems are very complicated, and we kind of see it right now as 10 basic needs. And I bet you if we put all our heads together, we'd probably have a lot more. And I think it's important that, rights, they're not. I saw a post earlier on Instagram, and somebody was talking about rights aren't God given. The founding fathers may have been religious in whatever ways, but they did say separation of church and state, and they did say freedom of religion. And so any rights that were ever meant to be given to us by our government, they're not God given. We can decide what basic rights are ourselves. And the decision that I want to make, that we're making collectively here, is that if it requires if it's required for your survival, then it should be a basic right. And if you don't like that because you think somebody's going to steal a part of your small piece of the pie, then I don't know, really check what your waste is. How much food do you throw out? Maybe that'd be a good metaphor for you. And thinking, well, I could have shared that little piece of it. But I'll tell you right now, the more people that you are surrounded by that have their basic needs met, that have their rights, the happier your life's going to be, the easier your life's going to be, and the more abundant your life is going to be. So, this scarcity mentality, and they're not working hard enough, and I made my future, and all of that, that's great. But it doesn't matter at the end of the day. We are a community, we are a tribe, we have a place to go, and we need to get there together. Dissect Alice a little bit. Asset limited, that people, you don't own houses, you probably don't own your car, whatever you think you do own, you probably have a loan backing it. Your income falls short of being able to afford everything you need. You're constrained by um, different things can constrain you, but it's poverty traps usually, or benefit cliffs. You can't make too much money, or you'd lose your disability, or your free health insurance, or whatever. You're probably employed, but again, you're working for someone like Walmart that doesn't pay a living wage, and it falls short of you being able to basically survive. And it results in you making choices between, am I going to feed my family? Am I going to leave my kids here alone and the door locked, and latchkey kids? Are we going to fix the tire or pay the electric bill? And it's that constant stress of always juggling the bills. And, I think a lot of people in the upper tier of that will kind of accept it as this is just the way it is. We've got to have a budget, and we got to balance it, and we've got to always make those tough decisions. But I don't think it has to be this way. I don't think, with the amount of billionaires that are out there that are hoarding wealth, I don't think it has to be this way. And to have 44% of America underneath the Alice threshold tells me that this is systemic, and it's not, 44% of America is lazy. It's not like that. It's something different. And if you come into Lansing, we're talking 55, 60, 65%. Some census tracts, I think, get up into the 70s. You kind of lay the redlining that was done in the 1930s over it, and you'll see that it's been like that for decades. There's systemic problems here that cause this. If it was 6 people, then we'd be like, oh, they might be lazy. The the vehicle here, I think, is that we need the basic needs. We want to make them as basic rights. We want to create our own prosperity. We want to do this kind of ourselves. So if we're going to create like co-ops, let's do them around basic needs. So, it might be fun to go out and, create a co-op for software or music or whatever, but we need a food co-op. We need a childcare co-op. We need a housing co-op. We need us to be able to come together, figure out a way that we can do the work, we can create the product, and we can share in the spoils of that together. So instead of somebody coming in with capital and saying, I own this, I'm going to pay you $12 an hour, and I'm going to keep all the profit, let's get 20 of us together, put it together ourselves, and share the profit with ourselves. I don't need to be a millionaire or a billionaire. I want to be 100,000aire or something like that. And I want to have my basic needs met. And I want to be surrounded by people that are in the same boat. They have their basic needs met. They have some freedoms. Uh, they get to enjoy themselves a little bit. And so we identify the basic needs, we create cooperatives around them, we launch micro enterprises, and we keep the wealth in our community so that we can continue to invest in it. And there's some models that you could look up. The ICA 7 is the cooperative principles. You've got Ostrom's commons governance. You've got what's going on in, I think it's pronounced Mondragon. I don't know how to say it exactly, but check out northern Spain, and they've got like 40,000 people involved in these cooperative owned enterprises, and basically how they think about everything. Cleveland Preston community, wealth building, and subsidiarity. That one snuck in on me. But anyways, check out these models. They work, they're real, they're out there in the world, and there are huge trends of cooperative ownership and cooperatively owned worker co-ops. Check them out. So in all of this, we have some guiding principles, and there's 9 of them that we've identified so far. Some of them I've talked about, and we're going to go into detail a little bit more. But decentralize everything, radical inclusion, sovereignty, basic needs equals basic rights, starve the failing systems, and that's the parallel system thing. Public safety is free. I'll get into that better in a little bit. Create true democracy, permeate the culture, and create true opportunity for prosperity. And as we dissect these a little bit, decentralizing everything, and I really do mean everything, and people, I don't know, they question it a lot because there's efficiencies that sometimes can be gained with centralization. But at the end of the day, if we don't, we can have a hub here where we've got a free stand, and we can make everybody in the city come to the free stand for food. And it hurts them when they have to drive over here or take the bus over here or walk over here. So if we can decentralize it and put more free stands around the city, then that's a much better solution. If we can have a direct democracy, let's put this land sale and this rezoning for the data center and the power plant up to vote, and let's have a direct democracy. Let's not relegate or delegate this city council to make this decision for us. So decentralizing everything, including economics and ownership and governance, very important. Radical inclusion, it's as simple as this. Everybody should get the opportunity to have a voice, to get an opportunity to experiment with their life and to learn things and to create things. And it's not, it's very difficult to do this, but it's really about saying yes to each other as much as you possibly can. Sovereignty, it's one thing to be able to grow your own food, but if you don't have land that you can grow it on, then somebody can take it from you. They can put it, or they can put you out so that you can't have it anymore. So sovereignty is so very important, but it's not just about ownership of things. It's our data and our information. It's our government and the way that we govern. It's our health. It's so many things that we're going to get into more in a minute. Basic needs are basic rights. We've talked about that, but we shouldn't even be having to defend that at all. People need houses, people need food, people need childcare, they need transportation. We want a strong team, If we were a football team, you wouldn't be like, well, we're not going to feed the quarterback today because he missed practice. We might not let him play, but we're not going to starve him. We're going to want him to be as strong as he possibly can to make us better. Um, the failing systems, again, we're not going to burn them down, but can we build something better that takes the resource away from them because they're probably extracting it out of us and gives it to the co-op so that we can share it better. And I know that as I talk through this, I get called commie bastard, I get called, I'm a socialist and all of that. Call me whatever you want. I see me being someone that believes in our community, and I want us to be healthy, and I want us to have prosperity. So if you want to name it with some political thing, or if you want to name it, you probably don't quite know what communism nor socialism is, because if you were raised through the 80s or 90s or whatever, your textbooks, Cold War definition, just the socialists were the Nazis and the communists were the Russians, and they're both bad because they got nuclear weapons too, or whatever. Um, Public safety is free. This is a principle that goes beyond public safety, and it really has a lot to do with investing in prevention, investing in people. They're desperate people do desperate things. People that you don't trust you. People that you treat poorly are willing to treat you poorly. So when I think about, punishing people and taking away their opportunities and sweeping encampments and just doing shitty things to people, it's important that we start preventing things by just going to the basic needs example, or putting programs together for prosperity. And as those things fall into place, we don't need as much money for the police. We are preventing fires. There's 23,000 calls for the fire department, I think, last year, and 2,300, about 10%, were for fires. The rest were for emergency situations. Having to show up because somebody was found unconscious. Fix the homeless problem. I bet you 30% of those go away. So housing ties directly to stuff like that. Create a true democracy. We cannot continue to be governed by, 50% of us are governed by someone we don't like, the other 50% love them, and then it flips every 4 years. We got to create a democracy where it's healthy, where we're having discord, where we're hanging out with each other, and we might not agree, but we're not, getting all pissed off and leaving all the time. And we've got to do this right. It should be science based. It should be facts. We should be able to reference things and cite things, not just being all pissed at each other all the time. We've got to permeate the culture. This has to show up in our stories. It has to be talked about at our dinner tables. It's got to be, put out there as, this is who we are. And our culture gets chopped up so much and taken away, and we try to wipe things out. I mean, ICE is doing a big disservice to our culture right now. The whole boycott of Bad Bunny, who's an American citizen, by the way, trying to hurt, our Chicano culture and our Latino culture. And it's just all screwed up. We've got to permeate the culture with great values that, help each other out. I want to be part of a society where we love each other. And I think deep down, you want that too, or a lot of people want that. You think that everything's scarce, and you think that you can't be socialist because they said don't be socialist. And then creating opportunity, being surrounded by entrepreneurs. What that really means is you're being surrounded by people who see a problem, They figure out a solution to that problem, and then they find a sustainable way to make that problem go away. And at the end of the day, that's what an entrepreneur is. You're entrepreneurial not because you figure out how to cheat somebody out of money. You're entrepreneurial because you see a gap somewhere that needs to be filled. And if you can make some money doing it, you can help other people make some money doing it, you start to improve society and build wealth with yourself and the circle around you, the co-op around you. Then we go into, kind of the some examples, I guess, of what we've done. The Sunshine House on the south side of Lansing is owned by about 17 people. The tenant has a rent to own model, which when I hear rent to own, it makes me cringe because I think of predatory landlords offering that to people. But this is real equity that they're given, that if they get kicked out or they decide to move out, they can take that equity with them. Urbandale Farm, basic the same thing, but for food. We want to be able to teach people how to grow their own food, how to put gardens in their backyard, how to, start to reduce that burden of that basic need, but also grow things that you want as the corner grocery stores start to go away, or the Latino or Chicano or Black or Asian markets start to go away. We're given the food that somebody else wants to feed us. And it's super important to realize that the hand that's feeding you is also the hand that could starve you. And then an entrepreneurial journey. There are some basics here that if we all start to learn them and work within them and put some values on top of them, where we're not trying to create victims or exploit people, we're really trying to solve problems that our community is facing. And the people solving them should get paid a little bit for it, or maybe they get some food from our farm or whatever. And then really taking a hard look at our foundations, our nonprofits. And if your nonprofit isn't trying to work itself out of existence, then I think you should really question what your mission is and all of that. I'd like to see the Fledge Foundation start to go away, and us to have cooperative ownership and us taking care of each other. I think that the grants that are out there, a president can come in and cancel so many of them, and values get exerted onto people through the nonprofit. um, it's basically colonization. It's a way to control people by offering grants and donations and stuff like that in that way. So I never really liked the nonprofit angle here. And I'm arm's length from the Fledge Foundation. I do a lot of volunteering because I do a lot of the food stuff and things like that. But I don't like the grant part at all. And if you look us up, you won't see many grants that we have accepted. And the ones that we have, we've tried to use to build infrastructure that can be used by the co ops. And I think it's time to scale. We've got a lot of partners around the US, we've got a lot of friends around the world that are helping us out. And I think we've proved it in Lansing that this is a good model. We'd love to see it replicate more in Michigan, closer to home, so that we can be able to visit each other and compare notes and see what's working and what's not working. And I'm not saying, I used to say, but I'm not saying it anymore. I wanted 10,000 fledges because the street nurses of Vancouver said that there should be a fledge in every city. And I don't think that way anymore. I think there needs to be a lot of organizations around the world that are embracing these models. And I think that they're popping up all over the place. I think if I went to Detroit or Grand Rapids or Jackson or Traverse City, I would find these organizations that I'm talking about. And I think what we need to start to do is create a network with each other so we can share things and we can do things better and learn from each other. And then, build it up in the Midwest and have a fractal scale to the national level so that not only is a small little place in Lansing, Michigan doing this, but Lansing's doing it, Michigan's doing it, the Midwest is doing it, the nation is doing it, and the world is doing it. And it sounds utopian, but again, it's how nature works. I mean, plants grow pretty much the same way or for the same reasons. They just don't always have the same climate and soil and health and all of that. So, you know, sovereignty, super important. So I'm coming back to it. We can create all of these solutions that we want, but if the building we're in, the land we're on, uh, we don't have sovereignty over it, we're going to get kicked out of it. If people can come in and take our sovereignty away from our body and our health, like we seem to do with women every 30 years or every day, it's meaningless. So sovereignty is super important. We have to get ownership. We can't buy everybody a house. So maybe 100 of us could own one house, but at least we're getting there. We're doing something, and we need to really take a look at what sovereignty means, and how we are really stewards of the things in the world, and ownership means something much more different in the future, I think. And so, what's my call to action for you today? Go check out some of the other episodes as we're starting to build this up. Explore the Project 2026 wiki, which will have uh, available in the links when we publish this. I'm probably going to publish it tomorrow. And come see the Fledge. Come visit us, talk to us, bring your ideas. We've got ideas. What can we share with each other to make this better? So that is it. That is what I wanted to say today. Oops. I'm caught because I can't see my. That's what I wanted to say today. And stop sharing for a second. And that's all I have. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'm going to take us out of here in a second. Love y'all.